Hello and welcome to Unsportsmanlike Conduct, the show where two British brothers talk all things NFL. I'm your host, Dom Corbs, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nick Corbs. And Nick, we have a lot of new subscribers at the moment, thanks to our mock draft content, our draft content, which is going to keep coming at you. We've got a new video now, so if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. But Nick, how are you doing?
Not doing too bad, Dom. Back in London, back down for Christmas holidays coming in, and time to do some draft stuff. Time to really get down to watching some film, watching some players, and I can't wait.
Brilliant. And before we get into the draft, now you've got a jersey on there. Who is that?
I've got a little DK Metcalf number on, Dom. I believe I've stolen this from your cupboard, but I will be taking this back to uni with me. I believe...
My DK Metcalf jersey is very clean, and I got it because I had him in Dynasty, but then I traded him away for pennies because I love doing the draft in Dynasty too much. And I knew I'm wearing a retro Texans jersey from 2006.
Andre Johnson.
Our first round draft pick, Mario Williams.
We
passed on him. We passed on Reggie Bush to draft this guy, so he got booed at the draft, which is quite fitting, I feel. So we're both in draft gear, essentially, and we're going to start by doing the mock draft. Now, the way this works for our listeners is me and Nick are going to alternate picks, which helps kind of give it a bit more of that draft feel. I might be higher on a player, he might be lower, and it kind of helps it rather than one person just going through it and trying to force needs and force fits, because there might not be certain players available by certain points. So, Nu, do you want to start with the first pick with your Giants, or do you want to pass them this time and go evens?
No, I'll go odds, Dom. I'll go odds. I'll, despite my jersey, I am a New York Giants fan, so it'd be fitting for me to start with them. So,
okay.
With the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Football Giants select Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami.
Strong. Why have you gone for Cam Ward then?
Well, so Dom, is he the best overall player in this draft? Probably not. Is he the best quarterback in this draft? I think so. However, as I'm sure you'll talk about very soon, there are some other big names. But I fundamentally think that it fits a need, and also it's good value. I think he's the best quarterback, and it's in the biggest position of need that the Giants have. So therefore, I can't see any other choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants have to draft a quarterback in this draft, quite frankly. I don't know how they get around doing that. And for me, Cam Ward is the clear-cut QB1 in this class. I think he's the only day one starter who is going to make your football team better. I think there are other quarterbacks that can start on day one and other quarterbacks that I don't think can start at all. But he's definitely the one that ticks both of those boxes. And really, from a first-round quarterback, that's what you need. Now, this first overall pick in this year's draft class now is very, very, very valuable because of how I see this quarterback class. Do you see it in a similar way to me, where it's Cam Ward, by far and away number one, or is it a bit closer to your QB2?
Well, Dom, I'm not as harsh on, I think, the other quarterbacks as you are. But like I said earlier, I think it's because I want to make myself like them. Because there's definitely a chance that the Giants don't draft Cam Ward. And when I'm sitting there on draft day at 2 a.m, I'd rather at least pretend to be happy than know I'm miserable. So I'm sort of making myself like these, looking for the positives in these other players instead of looking for the negatives, I think. But yes, Cam Ward is my clear-cut number one.
So before I go on, this pick is going to be a bit more of a prediction pick, because the way that I see this class, I would not be taking another quarterback in the next, at least until we're outside the top 10, maybe even outside the top 15, really. But I don't think that's how this draft is going to go down, frankly. I think the Raiders are a similar team that simply have to draft a quarterback. And the quarterback that I think they'll take here is Colorado's Shedeur Sanders. Now, I've been very vocal on my criticisms of Shedeur Sanders. I think he definitely has some strengths. He can throw over the middle quite well with anticipation, and he's a creator from the pocket. He's a pure pocket passer, and he can make some nice throws. But the more I watch this Colorado offense, and I've got a full Shedeur Sanders breakdown video, which will be coming, I don't know, some point during the draft season, so make sure you're subscribed and keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I'm just not sold on this Colorado offense as a whole. And Shedeur Sanders, I think, really has shown some really concerning things to me on tape. I think he holds onto the ball for way too long, 2.89 seconds. I think he doesn't have elite physical traits to offset the ability for him to just be a pure pocket passer in the NFL. So I would hate this pick, but I think this is where the Raiders are going to have to go, frankly, if they do pick here. But then that brings you to your third pick, Nu, or your second, the third.
So my third overall pick is my first overall player in this draft is Teto McMillan to the New England Patriots. Dom, Teto McMillan can really transform this offense. With him and Drake May, they could really be playoff contenders. They've got one of the worst receiver rooms in the entire NFL, and from day one, Ted McMillan can come in and elevate it. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. He's physical. He's got great route running. Dom, I've spoken at length, and I'll continue to speak about at length on how high I am on Ted McMillan. But I think him to the Patriots is my favourite pick of this entire draft. When positional need picks positional value, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I know people will comment that the Patriots need offensive line help, and they definitely do need offensive line. But the way that I see it is similar to you, Nu, is that, first of all, I think Tetairoa McMillan is a better player than any of the tackles that I have on my board. And I also think that Drake May has shown that he can offset, at least to some extent, his terrible offensive line. He's good with his legs, he can get the ball out quickly, he can make big-time throws. But with Tetairoa McMillan, he can't help his wide receivers catch the passes. He can't help them get open. So I like this pick. That's where I would definitely have gone as well with Tetairoa McMillan. But then the 4th overall pick is the Jags. And they also need offensive line help, but they also need cornerback help. And I think this has to be Travis Hunter. Now, he is not my first ranked cornerback at the moment. Will Johnson from Michigan is my first ranked cornerback. But I also think that the Jags need a bit of life, a bit of X factor, frankly, and I think Travis Hunter offers that more than any other player in this class. I also think he's a very good wide receiver, which frankly the Jags also need. It's not down there as a need from PFF, but I do think that is a need for the Jags. They've got Brian Thomas Jr. He's a stud. He's a wide receiver 1. But I think after that, there's a lot of questions to ask about this group. So for me, Travis Hunter would fill that cornerback spot immediately, but would also then be an impact player for like 10 to 15 snaps a game on offense. That gives you the Carolina Panthers at 5 now.
Yeah, so Dom, I'm not mass on that Travis Hunter pick, but we'll save that for another video down the line.
So you can critique it now.
Well, so I could take it, Dom. If you want to play corner, then you should draft. Will Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah, out of Michigan. Now, if you want a receiver, here's my number 2. Who's your number 3, Dom? I just personally, he's a better football player than he is a positional player. They've tried hybrids in the NFL so many times, and they've never succeeded, yet alone to play offense and defense. But I do understand the rationale behind your pick. So for my 5th overall pick, I'm going for a player that's going to make an immediate impact in a position of need. I'm going Abdul Carter, the edge out of Penn State.
Ooh.
So I think Mason Graham is a better player than Abdul Carter. He's more refined right now. But I think Abdul Carter can make more of that impact. He can immediately contribute to sacks, whereas Mason Graham, he's a good run stopper, and he will develop a pass game later down the line. But he just won't have that immediate impact that the Panthers need to get better right now. And I'm really high on Abdul Carter. I think I'm higher on him than you are, but I think this is a great positional fit.
I think it is. I think it fills a massive need, and the Panthers definitely need like an X-factor player on defense. And if anyone's going to be that in this class, it's going to be Abdul Carter. I mean, he's a high upside edge rusher who's converted from off-ball linebacker, wears number 11, going to have a lot of Micah Parsons comps coming out because of that exact number he wears at Penn State. But yeah, I mean, for me, Abdul Carter's just a little bit too raw at the moment, but I agree. I think if you're going to swing for it here, which is really what the Panthers need to do, then Abdul Carter is the player that does make the most sense. Now, we've got a really interesting dilemma here at 6 new with the Tennessee Titans. I don't think that the Titans can pass on a quarterback in this draft class. Not necessarily drafting one at 6, but with the way that Will Levis played yesterday, which we're recording this on Monday, by the way, we should have led with that. This is why the draft order might look a bit different to how it is currently, because we're going to release this after the Raiders play. But I do think, though, just quickly going back, that if the Raiders and the Giants play, and the Raiders, if the Raiders end up having the first overall pick, that they'll either stick with Shedeur Sanders or they'll take Cam Ward. So I think those two picks will just flip. But with the Titans, though, considering that we've already lost those 2 quarterbacks here, and considering that Will Levis completed 8 passes yesterday and threw 3 other passes to the defense, I think they have to be in this quarterback market. But no, I don't see a quarterback here that I could remotely draft with the 6th overall pick. We've got Jalen Milroe, not a chance. Carson Beck, I think he's going back to school. Quinn Ewers, I think he's going back to school. So this is hideous at this point for the Titans. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree, Don. But so quickly, I don't see Drew Aller on that quarterback's ranking over there. Wait, I know, I'm just double checking that because I was checking earlier today, and he very much was.
He should be because he's not confirmed going back to school, and look, if you need to draft Drew Aller, spoiler alert for maybe later, then you can do that. We'll work something out. But then, so I'm looking at their needs. They need wide receiver. They need a tackle. They've already got Trevon. My BPA here is Mason Graham, but they've got Trevondre Sweat and they've got Jeffrey Simmons. So they definitely don't need They desperately need right tackle. What the hell am I doing? Now, Will Campbell is my number one tackle and he plays left tackle. But Nicolas Petit-Frere, the right tackle for the Titans, has been so bad this year, that even someone that plays left tackle, that even them converting was going to be infinitely better than Nicolas Petit-Frere. So I think that's a home run, no-brainer. The Titans desperately need a player, and I think Will Campbell at 6 is good value at a position of need. It ticks every box.
Yeah, so Dom, and now I've got the Cleveland Browns here with the 7th overall, very similar to the Titans. They just had James Winston get benched through multiple interceptions. DTR came in, looked slightly better, but they're 3-10. And Dom, I think they have to draft a quarterback. I think because the big difference between them and the Titans is I think they've got a better quarterback room. If you're a rookie coming in, you can really learn from Jameis Winston. You can really learn from DTR.
Learn what? To throw 5 interceptions in a game?
He's a good locker room guy. He's probably quite good on film. Probably a good character. Not as good. Will Levis is not really going to teach you much about playing in the NFL. Jameis Winston has thrown for 5,000 yards in the NFL in a season. He has the experience that I think a rookie could learn from. So I think you've got to go Jalen Milroe here. He is the pure talent. And Dom, I think you have to face the fact that on draft day, he almost will definitely go top 10.
I don't think he will. I don't think Jalen Milroe will go top 10. I think he will be a first rounder when it's all said and done, but I think top 10 is insanely high for Jalen Milroe. Insanely high. If you think that's insanely high as well, then let us know in the comments. But I know that Browns fans will be besides themselves by the fact that you didn't draft a tackle there, because I think that's a massive need for this team as well. Their offensive line has been really strong in previous years, but recently it's been a real weakness, actually. Well, this season it's been a real weakness. So, again, another team with the Jets here at 8 who probably need a quarterback, and I'm definitely not taking one now. I might have been tempted by Milroe here with Rodgers if he still plays for another year next year. So, I think, this is, they need it. I think if I'm going BPA here and looking at their needs as well, obviously quarterback, tight end, defensive line, interior defensive line, cornerback, I really wouldn't hate Mason Graham or Will Johnson here. Is it because one of their quarterbacks is a free agent? Is it because who's the cornerback opposite Sauce Gardner? DJ Reed.
I can't think off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm going to go Mason Graham here because I feel like interior defensive line is just the bigger need. And Will Johnson, despite being a bit higher on my board, I think that the Jets' strength is their defensive line. So I'm just going to reload at that one. We're taking Michigan's Mason Graham here at number 8 to the Jets. Oh, this is a great pick. The Bears at 9. I know who I take.
Yeah, I think this is an easy pick. You're running in the card here if you're the Chicago Bears. You've got the most sacked quarterback in football. And there you've got arguably the number 1 tackle in Kevin Banks Jr. waiting for you. The All-American out of Texas. I'm really high on him, Dom. I'm the same as you. Will Campbell's my number 1 tackle. But Kevin Banks is hardly a bad consolation number 2. He can step in, plug in, even play a bit of guard if you need him to. And he can really improve that offensive line from day one. And I think that is the dream scenario for the Bears.
Yeah, I really like that. That again marries both things. There's drafting for need and there's going best player available, and I think the best picks are the ones that combine elements of both of that. And Kelvin Banks Jr. is definitely the right pick there. He's an elite pass block. He's got a great base experience. He's got a lot of games starting. Like you say, he might lack the ideal height, only 6'4", 320 pounds, and the arm length is a question. But I think arm length is overrated for offensive linemen anyway. As long as you don't have T-Rex arms and you can't touch anyone, then you'll be all right. The Saints at 10, and this is a team that it needs blowing up. So I'm not even really going to consider need here, I don't think. Obviously, defensive line is the big one, but I think you just need talented players, frankly, if you're the Saints. You're not going to compete, so it's not as if a defensive line is going to suddenly help you make it over the hump and be a playoff team. So here, I'm going to take Will Johnson.
Yeah, I like that pick.
They got rid of Marshawn Lattimore mid-season. They don't have a corner. They don't have a number 1 corner anymore. Will Johnson can come in and be a cornerstone piece of your defense for the next 5 years if you need him to be. Dolphins, number 11 new.
So Dom, with the Dolphins, it's hard here. Do you go positional need and take a tackle? Maybe someone like Josh Simmons out of Ohio State? Yeah, I think you got to. I think it's such a position need, especially after getting rid of Hunt in the offseason to Carolina. That's really slowed what was the best offense in the NFL. Has really almost grinded to a halt because of this offensive line. You still have Waddle, you still have Hill, and you've got what's left of Tua Tagovailoa. And I think you've got to protect that, keep the insurance on it, and invest in a tackle, invest in the trenches.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And also, for what it's worth, just quickly scrolling back now and looking at the kind of the top 11 picks, we've got 3 offensive linemen, 3 tackles going. Will Campbell at 6, Kelvin Banks at 7, and now Josh Simmons at 11. And honestly, that's how I see this draft class going. It's a weaker class overall, especially in terms of offensive players. And big positions like tackle always go early. So I think that's definitely like a realistic scenario here. Now, I got the Colts at 12. They need tight end, linebacker, safety, not exactly valuable positions.
I've got a pick here for the Colts. Can we quickly do a quick trade of picks? Because I've got
okay.
Because you're not going to like this, and this probably goes against the general draft consensus. But
I don't think it will. Are you going to do Malachi Starks?
No, I'm going Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State.
That's insane.
I'm so high on this guy, Dom.
That's insane.
Dom, he finished 6th in the Heisman voting, which is the highest for a tight end since 1996. He runs the ball. He scored 4 different touchdowns in 4 different ways in a game. He's the future of the tight end position. And I think
it's a really strong tight end class. If you need one, you can get one in the second.
He's not a traditional tight end.
You've got Tyler Warren. You've got Harold Fannin from Bowling Green, who's literally been the entire offense. If you want to draft a tight end that's been a massive part of the offense, then Harold Fannin. I mean, where's he? He's 80th on the PFF ranks. I'd have him a lot higher than that. I'm not going to trade with you to do that. I'm not going to trade with you to do that.
Come on.
But I do think though that
he can do everything, and he's almost a Carl Juszczyk style player. That I think he's going to go much higher than people think in this draft.
Yeah, but where did Carl Juszczyk get bloody drafted?
Well,
what are you talking about?
Fullback, but I'm saying in that sort of role, you can run the ball. You can block. Okay, I'll stop talking about it.
No, I hear you. You can overdraft him with another pick because there'll definitely be another team that needs that. I'm going to stick here, and I'm going to almost slyly here myself overdraft Malachi Starks from Georgia, the safety. Now, again, a bit like with the positional value argument that you're talking about there, Nu. That isn't exactly a premium position at all. However, I do think that Malachi Starks is one of the best players in this draft, and I do think that he is like a blue chip player in this draft. He's been a 3-year starter at Georgia. He's so solid at safety. He's versatile. He can line up anywhere. He's lined up 190 snaps in the box, 252 at slot corner, 385 at free safety, and he manned up in man coverage against Luther Burden in 2023. So, yeah, maybe not like a massive impact position, safety, but you've seen teams like the Lions with Brian Branch, how that can really elevate a defense if you've got like a Swiss Army knife who can play loads of different roles and can help eradicate a team's best option. Maybe that's a tight end, maybe that's a big slot, who knows. Malachi Starks at 12, I actually really like that. But then the Bengals at 13, Nu.
So, Dom, all season we've been hammering the table saying that, well, me personally, saying that the Bengals are a poorly built football team. They've addressed skill position over the trenches. They've addressed flash over need. And I'm continue to address flash over need. Give me Ashton Jeanty.
No. As if you took him from the Cowboys for the next
I
pick.
know, but also I hate the L boys so much. But Dom, I think outside that, he's a really good fit for the Bengals. I understand their defense has been generationally bad. You can fix that in free agency. That's fine. Chuck some money at it. Ashton Jeanty is a generationally talented running back. And him, Jamar Chase, maybe T. Higgins if he's still about, and Joe Burrow, that's the best offense in football.
To be fair, I don't hate the pick as much as I thought I would when you made it, because you're right. I think T. Higgins is almost definitely going to be gone. I think a team like Carolina has to throw every single dime they have his way to lure him away from Cincinnati. And they're a team that isn't really going to massively pay their players in how they're structured as a team. And yeah, if you, I mean, we've seen Jamar Chase be able to carry this offense with 200-yard performances. I think defensive line is such a massive need. You don't always have to draft for need. Don't get me wrong. Like, people don't love doing that. And to be honest, I would have taken Nick Scouton then, but he's not a difference maker on offense like Ashton Jeanty is. So I actually do quite like that pick, despite kind of hating it when you first said it. But then that leaves me at a really ugly spot with the Cowboys, because I think with the Cowboys, it's Ashton Jeanty or bust really for them. There's a lot of good running backs you can get in the second round, by the way. So don't think that if you don't get Ashton Jeanty, all is lost in this class, because it is absolutely not. But I'm definitely not going to draft a running back here. I think this is so tricky, because I would be down to take Luther Burden here as a wide receiver. I think their wide receivers after CeeDee Lamb are abysmal, like really, really bad. But the problem is that Luther Burden is a majority slot player, and that's how they use CeeDee Lamb as well. So I don't know if I'd be doubling up there with with regards to usage. And then, right, defensive interior. God, this is tricky. Linebacker. You know what? I'm going to go with Luther Burden. I'm going to say we're going to work it out with CeeDee Lamb. He can play a bit more outside. Luther Burden in the slot, help CeeDee Lamb out a little bit. I'm going to take Luther Burden from Missouri there, Nu.
Dom, I like that pick personally. I think best player available. That's what they did when they drafted CeeDee Lamb. Those, like, was it in 2019 or 2020 was he drafted? I can't remember off the top of my head now. But people were saying that wasn't a good pick. They should have addressed more positions of need. But if there's a good player, ways for you to draft him, you should draft him. Now, for the San Francisco 49ers, they've had a bit of a disappointing season. I think they're going to lose one of Debo, Debo Samuel's probably going to go at the end of the year. So maybe you could draft Mecca Ibuka, but after drafting Ricky Pearsall last year, I don't see it. Okay, I reckon they go corner here, and they get the cornerback out of Notre Dame, Benjamin Morrison. I think it's positional value. He's a good player. And yeah, I think it's a good fit. Obviously, interior line, you would love there to be more there for you, but they had Pooney last year, who they just drafted. He looks like a good player.
Yeah,
maybe go somewhere that you'd rather go line, but I think the value just isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shock here is the fact that the 49ers are picking at 15. Really, like this is a team that should have been in with a shot to win a Super Bowl, and they're picking, literally mid-table at 15. I would have maybe gone for the Minnesota offensive lineman Ariante Ursary, but I don't hate Benjamin Morrison. Obviously, he's missed quite a lot of the season with a season-ending hip injury, but he's definitely a first-round corner and is definitely the third corner, I think, on my board. So I don't hate that at 15 at all. The Falcons, what an interesting team with, they've got Michael Penix Jr. waiting in the wings. They've got a stacked offense in terms of the players that they've got on it. I just think they need defensive line help. And they signed Matt Judon in free agency to help them do that. And I think he's been very disappointing for them. So this is going to be Nick Scouton, the edge defender from Texas A&M. Now, he's a very interesting player. I've just kind of finished watching some of his tape, actually. And he's like 265 pounds, a bit of a tweener. He's got a bit of versatility, can play inside and outside. And he's really powerful. He's a power edge rusher. But I want him to use that power more, essentially. Sometimes he tries to win with finesse, and he's a big old unit. So I think Nick Scouton is definitely a player that others might be a bit higher on, but I think considering that in the NFL you win with power most of the time as an edge rusher, and he's got loads of it, he's got power in buckets. I think he's got quite a high floor here, and I think that's really what the Falcons need, is just a player that can come in, do a role, and not be a weak point on the defense.
Yeah, so Don, with the 7th overall pick now, I got the Cardinals. And this is a pick which doesn't address any of their needs on PFF, but I do believe this is a need, is pairing up another receiver to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think going back to his alma mater, pairing up one of the best number 2s in the draft, as we were saying, in Emeka Egbuka, will not only make Harrison better, but also Kyler Murray better. I think it elevates the whole offense. Give me Emeka Egbuka. And
that's an interesting one. Again, I'm not in love with Emeka Egbuka, as you know, and if you want to hear our provisional wide receiver rankings, and we have a video which we posted last week on that. Emeka Egbuka is my wide receiver 7. I might be coming over to him being a little bit higher than that, to be fair, because I was really low on Brian Thomas Jr. as well, and he was amazing. Yeah. So I've kind of got a bit of PTSD from being a bit lower on a consensus wide receiver 3 or a higher wide receiver. I do think that foregoing defense there is a big statement, considering how bad that defensive unit is on paper, talent-wise. But then I also think that, Jalen Walker is a player that's a bit like that guy, Darius Robinson, they drafted in the first round last year, like a really high athletic upside player, but definitely doesn't have the production or the experience. So I don't know that Jalen Walker would have as much of an impact on defense as he would Emeka Egbuka on offense, if that makes sense.
No, I see that. And Dom, I was just watching the Cardinals game yesterday, and Greg Dortch is a good player, but he's not necessarily a wide receiver 2 for a team that really could have made the playoffs this year if a few things went their way. So I really like that Emeka Egbuka fit for them.
Well, look, shout out Micah Wilson. I actually think he's a great wide receiver 2/3, but Emeka Egbuka can come in, be the wide receiver 3, and then see if he can break into that wide receiver 2 spot from the slot. I like that pick. I do like that pick. I'm not going to lie. The Seahawks at 18. Now, I think there's some weird people that think that Geno Smith isn't playing well this year. I've seen it on Twitter that Seahawks fans kind of hate Geno Smith. I think he's actually playing really well, which is why my pro comparison for Shedeur Sanders is kind of been blown out the water this year, because I said he was a watered down Geno Smith. But this team needs offensive line help like I need air to breathe. The Seahawks offensive line has been terrible, so much so that their center retired mid-season. So this has to be, I think, Ariante Ursary, the tackle from Minnesota. They need guard, they need tackle. Obviously, not every, it's almost a bit of a cliche to say that, he can bump inside to guard, then come outside later when they need a tackle. But I think this is a home run pick. I actually think that the Seahawks would trade up to grab a player like Ariante Ursary, who I really don't think actually, when push comes to shove, will be available at pick 18, given, again, how it's a blue chip position and there's not that many elite players in this draft. But I think that's a great pick. I'm very pleased with that one. And so would anyone else that wears a Seahawks jersey like you knew.
Of course, yeah. Dom, so now on to pick 19, and now I can overdraft Tyler Warren. This actually is probably a better fit than the Colts. The Colts desperately need receiving help. And they also desperately love running the ball. Oh, sorry, Chargers, sorry. They desperately need receiving help. Quentin Johnson has not worked out as that first round pick. But also, if you know Jim Harbaugh, they love running the ball. They love physical football. They love football players. And Tyler Warren is exactly that. He's a winning blocker in the pass game, runs amazing routes, can even take the carries out of the backfield, can maybe take some of those fullback carries off of that defensive tackle. What's his name? For the Chargers, who plays fullback.
I don't know.
Again, anyway, he's almost like the NFL's Travis Hunter, but he's just fat and ginger.
Thanks for that cutting edge analysis there, Neil. That's what people come to the pod for.
Exactly. But Tyler Warren can be that Swiss Army knife that could really elevate this quite boring offense.
It is, to be fair, and I do agree with you that this offense needs another playmaker opposite Lad McConkey. Essentially, they're just a bunch of NPCs, the Chargers wide receivers, and they've been selling what I think is a MVP level campaign from Justin Herbert. Maybe in the last few weeks that has kind of tailed off a little bit, especially with their loss yesterday. But I do think that a pass catcher is a massive need for this team, and I don't hate Tyler Warren there. Is it a bit of an overdraft? Yeah, sure, but look, my Pookie Justin Herbert needs someone else to throw to other than the undersized Lad McConkey. So the Bucks at 20. Excuse me. Bucks at 20. A tight end, edge, cornerback. I think they definitely do need defensive line help. And I think, God, it's really hard actually. Who is there anyone that you'd be thinking of here, Noom?
I was actually just thinking that, Don. I was quite happy I didn't get the Bucks because the Bucks are quite a difficult team to evaluate and to what they need, and because you could always go receiver. They've got some aging receivers and it's quite a strong receiver class. I think you get some receiver value out of this. Tight end again, Colson Loveland. I wouldn't hate as a pick, but I think you just got to go best player available here. The Bucks have basically holes everywhere, but like no position's elite. If that makes any sense, it's quite hard to work out where would be best for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've got something in the throat here now. I'm dying. Oh, God, cut it, Paddy, cut it out, cut it. Yeah, I mean, look, my eyes are going to be red. I'm crying about what the Bucks are going to do.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
it's so sad.
Just so sad. Right, I mean, I think that the value here is Jalen Walker, who
100%.
is a player that I've not completely watched the tape of yet, but I do know that he's a kind of really twitched up linebacker. Not the kind of like not the edge convert that like Abdul Carter is. Like he is a bit of a tweener in that sense. Like he's a Swiss Army knife that can be used as like a QB spy. He's good against the run and against the pass. But I feel like with someone like Kalijah Cansey and with other draft picks they've made in the past, the Bucks, who was the edge rush they took not long ago as well? I feel like they're
Joe
always
Tryon?
swinging on.
No.
Yeah, Joe Tryon. That's exactly it. I feel like they're always swinging for these like subpar athletic players on defense, which haven't really hit to help someone like Vita Vea along the middle. But look, I'm gonna go with the consensus here because this is an ugly team. I need to. This is something we need to iron out by the time the draft fully rolls around. So I'm gonna take Jalen Walker here from Georgia.
Again, I got the 21st overall pick, the LA Rams. You know, they had such a home run on the defensive line last year with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. Hopefully that can be the same for the offensive line. Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia can hopefully fix some of their tackle problems.
Yeah, that was exactly who I was looking at as well. And to be honest, I think we're gonna continue the tackle run here, and I'm gonna take Cameron Williams from Texas to shore up that offensive line. It's a massive, massive part of the Commanders' offensive system that they run, with having like a dual threat quarterback in the backfield and like a strong run game. Obviously, Austin Eckler was doing really well before he got his injury. So again, premium tackle class. Well, it's not a premium tackle class, but the premium position of tackles, and they are running fast off the board. But all the Broncos at 23.
Although I want to give a quick shout out to an offensive lineman who plays for my team called Cameron Williams, who I'm sure he'll be getting his jersey straight up after the draft. But yeah, so now 23 with the Broncos. They've got quite a weak receiver core. Isaiah Bond would be a good pick here, I think. But I'm going to go Colton Loveland. I really do. I'm high on this tight end class.
Yeah, okay, yeah, nice. I like that.
Bo Nix, obviously, maybe some of the cracks in his game started to show last game against the Colts. I know tight end is quarterback's best friend. They always say, check down underneath, always a safe pair of hands. Maybe can just somewhat improve this Broncos offense that really is pretty underwhelming. So yeah, Colton Loveland, big fan.
And for what it's worth, I do think that this is the range really in the draft. I know you love
Tyler
Warren. But I do think that this is the range where the tight ends will start to go in the actual NFL draft. Like, you're looking at an impact offensive starter, not a premium position, but you're looking at someone that's going to come in and make a difference versus like maybe a rotational edge rusher or a developmental offensive lineman. So I do think that this is kind of the sweet spot for those kind of players. You see a lot with wide receivers as well. The Ravens, a really interesting team here. Obviously, a really strong team with Lamar Jackson, but there's quite a lot of holes on this roster, actually, which I think the offense and Lamar Jackson is doing a very good job at kind of hiding. At the moment, PFF has it down as guard and tackle, and then cornerback as the biggest needs. But I think cornerback is a massive, massive need. But kind of looking at who it might be, like Trey Amos or... no. It's a bit bold, but I'm going to take a swing at Siobhan Revell, the cornerback from Coastal Carolina, who hasn't played this season because he got an injury in preseason, but his 2023 tape was really, really good. And look at how another similar cornerback prospect, like from Toledo, the Eagles drafted him.
Quinton Mitchell.
Quinton Mitchell, like, it doesn't really matter what school you play for or what kind of division you play in or, what conference you play in, rather, for college football. I think I would rather take a swing at someone that can be an elite corner, which I think Siobhan Revell can be in the NFL. So hopefully he'll be good to go by the combine for testing and he'll be healthy for the season.
I'm such a big fan of him. I personally had him penciled into the Lions at the end of the first. I think that would have been a great scheme fit. Very Dan Campbell style player, being 6'3". But no, big fan of that pick.
Yeah, his measurables are sick.
With your Houston Texans, Dom, hence the jersey.
Ooh. Yeah.
So top need being running back there, and I do think the running back out of UNC, Amarian Hampton, is that correct?
Amarian Hampton,
Hampton, I think he's a good player, but Mixon maybe has enough left in the tank. Maybe you can find. I was thinking maybe giving you Elekai Emmanuel, your favourite wide receiver, who you're really high on for no reason.
We got Nico though. You got Nico,
but Nico and Tank Dell both went down this year, and your offense really did stall because of it.
That's a very good point. When Diggs went down and we were kind of down to relying on Dell more. That is very true. Actually, that is very true.
Yeah. So
I'm guard though, new man. Our guard, like our offensive line this year has been terrible. I think this has to be offensive line.
Dom, do you see any value in tackle or interior offensive line here?
Honestly, probably not.
Yes, I don't either.
Tyler.
So Dom, I'm going to go with... Give me Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver out of Texas.
I really don't love that.
Where is he?
It doesn't matter where he is. I really don't like that. Like, I don't think Isaiah Bond... He has movement skills like Jalen Waddle, but he is not that level of player. I think he actually really lacks, like, separation ability. Like, when he's running against zone coverage, he runs straight into coverage. Like, he doesn't tempo his speed. He's like 0 to 12 kind of player. He just like turns the gas on and runs. I think he's a difference maker with that speed, but I don't think it's going to translate in the same way, like I said, like a Jalen Waddle has. So I would have gone in, but what would I have gone with instead? Honestly, I might have preferred Amarian Hampton there. I know I'm a running backs don't matter merchant, but we've been lacking that. But I think if there is a guard there, if there is like an interior offensive lineman that rises throughout this draft process, I would draft that. And also, if we're missing anyone, then let us know in the comments, because, me and New are still watching these players and we're still trying to get through them to have our own notes and our own opinions on them. So, it is still a work in progress. But then the Steelers, 26. is this? What are the quarterbacks saying here now? Like, would this, if Drew Aller was in, would this be like a Drew Aller?
Yeah. So Dom, I was big time thinking Drew Aller. I'm really high on Drew Aller. I think he has all the tools that you really look for in an NFL prospect, and he's someone with a really good highlight reel, which I think might push him up boards because the average fan watching Drew Aller highlights, you want him on your team. He looks like someone who can make plays in an NFL. He stays in the pocket. He's got good foot movement, great arm strength, great physicality. Almost looks like Josh Allen out there. But then there's a lot for him to work on.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, well, he's not nearly as athletic. I think that's important.
No, to be fair, I actually don't think I barring the fact that he's a white, like athletic quarterback. I actually think that the comparison there is somewhat apt. Like coming out of Wyoming, like do you know what I mean? Like just like a very raw, like high upside, got the physical traits. You got definitely got to rein him in, kind of prospect.
He doesn't have the athleticism as Allen does, and what Allen used to succeed in is coming into the league. But I still think that Drew Aller is a great developmental prospect that will be in the first round. I'll bet a $5 on it. I think he's going in the first round.
If he declares, I think he will be a first rounder. I agree. Yeah. I agree.
I
think like this would kind of be the area where he would start thinking of going. Maybe a team that missed on a quarterback, like the Titans, would be thinking about trading up back into the back end of the first at this point. Who knows? But I think here for the Steelers, I'm going to take Eli Oman, a real my guy in this draft, like a big 6'3", great movement skills for his size wide receiver who had like a serious injury but has bounced back from it. And I think he'll be a great complementary piece with George Pickens because really, I mean, after George Pickens, the wide receivers on this team are not anything to write home about at all. Like Calvin Austin, like one or two other kind of like wide receiver 3s / wide receiver 4s at best. So that leaves you the Packers new.
So the Packers, big win yesterday. I think Packers we know they're never going to draft a receiver in the first round. They never have, they never will, even though I do think there's some receiver value. So let's just go best player available. Let's go Mikael Williams, the edge out of Georgia. It might not be
nice. I like that.
It might not be a position of need, but the Packers are a great drafting team. And they're a great drafting team because they always draft the best player available. They don't panic, and I think they're going to stick to that. And if Mikael Williams falls to them at 27, that's a great value pick.
Yeah, I like that. And, God, the Vikings at 28. Like, this is screaming Amari Hampton to me. But again, like, if I'm the Vikings, I'm not drafting another running back in the first round because it's really deep. Like, for me, the difference between, if I just go to the running backs really quickly, the difference between Amari Hampton and Caleb Johnson and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson and even someone like Dylan Sampson for Tennessee is not that big, to be honest. So, like, if I'm looking at the board then, like, they need a running back, they need interior offensive line, they need a cornerback. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who the cornerbacks are at this point. Like, do they Trey Amos? Like, I quite like James Pierce Jr. I'm surprised he's this low, considering that he had some number 1 overall pick draft type this time last year. Oh, this is a really tricky pick, What is there anything that you're thinking of, Nick?
I was low on the Vikings, and you were on them pretty quick, but because I still don't quite understand why they're as good as they are. Because obviously they've got the receiver talent. Darnold's had a great year, but I think it's probably down to coaching stuff, which means it's quite hard to evaluate what their positional need is when players play different positions and people are schemed for blitzes and all that stuff that Brian Flores does on D and what Kevin O'Connell does for the offense. So I think you just got to go best player available, who can help the team the most. So I would go Amari Hampton myself.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go Amari Hampton too, because I do think that this scheme with a dynamic running back, and I'm not, this isn't a slight to, who is there running? Is it Aaron Jones?
Yeah.
It's Aaron Jones. It's Aaron Jones. It's not a slight to Aaron Jones. I think he's been good, but I think you've definitely seen that when they need to rely on their second running back, which is like Cam Akers, I think now, that there's a real fall off there. And if you get this team and he's got stacks and stacks of offensive talent, if you can also add a great running back talent in Amari Hampton, then I'm okay with that, despite it being another running back. Bills.
Yeah, so
29.
So Dom, I think Kenneth Grant is a really good player. And I think he doesn't often get his flowers because he's paired up with Mason Graham, who is such a good player. And I think he generates his own pressure outside of Mason Graham, irrespective of that. And I'm not sure if him playing on such a strong defensive line will hurt or help his stock. But I think he's definitely a mid to late first rounder. And for defensive interior, which is such a big positional need for the Bills, I think it works out perfectly.
Yeah, nice. I think that's a pick that makes itself there, to be honest. I do like that one. Eagles. I mean, Howie Roseman's obviously going to go for whatever weird player has slid somehow really far. Edge and linebacker are their needs. They obviously love drafting defense. Shamar Stewart's the kind of the highest rated player left on the board. Like James Pierce Jr., I really don't hate here if you're going to kind of like swing for like a real twitched up edge rusher.
It's a very Eagles pick. It's a very Eagles pick.
It is a very Eagles pick, but let me just check their R lads now. Their depth chart, because I don't want to like add him to a room where like there's a million people, you know?
But you know one thing about the Eagles, they don't care. They would draft an edge if they had 9 other edges.
That is very true. They literally do just like that's what they're so good at is making their strengths stronger. Yeah. I mean, like wide receiver, like
you could do wide receiver.
Maybe.
You wouldn't hate it. Obviously, you got Saquon there, which sort of I think basically is you're not wide receiver number 3 already for that full touch stronger.
This is true. I mean, at this point, like you know, it kind of is down to like team flavor and what they're kind of after. Let's go with Shamar Stewart there from Texas A&M, the edge rusher. It adds to a strength they already have, but watch out for Harry Roseman pulling some insane draft day juju here and just just coming away with somehow like an Elik Ioman or Colston, like someone like on the board. Lions new.
So Dom, I actually had Shavon Ravel here, like sort of big time penciled in. So I'm asking for your help here a little bit. Who do you think is the most Lions player left in this draft? Like, who do you think is like their, either the scrappiest on film or, has the size and physicality that the Lions really need?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that they definitely need to go defense here because I think that is what's going to. I mean, we saw it just last night against the Bills. They got 48 points hung up on them, 42. Whatever it was, 40 plus.
Yeah, 40. Too many.
So I would think that James Pierce. I mean, the problem is that. Yeah, I like. Basically, I think what they need is a proper a proper edge to play opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Really, he's been so dominant. It's such a shame that he went down with an injury. He was having like an all-time season. I would take James Pierce Jr. here. I think as like twitched up. Like he's not like the mold of an edge one, but that's brilliant. It doesn't have to be because you've got one of the best edge rushers in the league in Aiden Hutchinson. So I would go James Pierce Jr. here. I think.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, I'm happy with that pick as well. I haven't actually seen that much James Pierce Jr. film. I was expecting him to be really big on my board this year because he was getting so much first overall hype. And then he's sort of really just fallen off the face of the earth, really. I haven't had much from him.
We definitely need to watch like a lot of these guys taped to have like our proper informed opinions. Obviously, like we've done that on quite a few players up until this point, but now kind of getting into the tail end of it.
Yeah.
It is more kind of need than it is us really understanding these players. But from what I know of James Pierce Jr., I think that's a really nice fit actually in Detroit. But also, again, a preface. As we ramp up our draft content, we're going to be having notes on all of these players.
Yes.
But we just want to be able to get these kind of like these early mock drafts out for you. You can engage with us in the comments. Let us know what you feel. If we're missing first rounders, please let us know. We'll go and watch them. That's the fun of the draft process, is getting to know these players and discovering more of them as the draft goes on. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We're going to 300 subscribers now, so really ramping it up.
Exciting stuff.
But it is. The Chiefs at pick 32. If these guys are picking pick 32 by the end of the season, I'm going to be shocked. If they win the Super Bowl again this year.
Off.
They do need a running back. They do need a running back. Am I seriously going to say that 3 running backs are going in this class when I've been pounding the table and saying, look, the difference between this and that and this and that. But there has been a run on them. There has been a run on running backs who had 2 go already. Omarion Hampton's gone. And I really like Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Like, I seriously like Caleb Johnson from Iowa. I've not dove into the running backs yet, but that will probably be our next positional rankings, I think, the running backs, or at least with the quarterbacks, one of. Isaiah Pacheco, he's been injured, obviously, this season. Kareem Hunt, obviously, is definitely not a long-term running back whatsoever. I really think that they do need a tackle, definitely. They did bench their tackle a few weeks ago. Was it like Prince? I can't remember his names. Annoyingly, because I have this draft set up now, I can't check the tabs. I think I'm going to go Caleb Johnson from Iowa here.
Cool.
He's right next to Quinshon Judkins, and he's also up there with Trayvon Henderson. But Caleb Johnson is a dynamic rushing threat from the backfield. I think he could be my RB2 when it's all said and done. I know Omarion Hampton's really, really up there as well, but I really, really like Caleb Johnson's ability to break tackles, and he is electric. So let's give the Chiefs a weapon.
Yeah, Dom, or I was thinking another tight end. Kelsey has shown signs of aging, and it shows how important it is to the Andy Reid offense. I would not be against them drafting another tight end.
I was thinking the exact same thing as well. I really like the Bowling Green tight end, Harold Fanning.
Yeah,
by the
first
way,
in
but-
every single tight end stat on the year, just in case you didn't know. He's first in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, average depth of target. Every single stat, he's number one. He just plays for Bowling Green, who have
I think he got
horrible
robbed of the
uniforms.
Bolitnikov.
No, he won the. He lost to Tyler Warren for the Mackey, which is the best tight
Yeah,
end.
but I think he should have won the receipt. I think he should have won the Bolitnikov, which is what Hunter won. Travis Hunter, the best receiving threat. He was eligible, I think.
Yeah, I actually didn't know tight ends were eligible, but yeah.
So let's recap then the top 10. We got Cam Ward to the Giants at 1. We got Shedeur Sanders to the Raiders at 2. Tetheran McMillan to the Patriots at 3. Travis Hunter to the Jags at 4. Abdul Carter to the Panthers at 5. Will Campbell to the Titans at 6. Jalen Milroe to the Browns at 7. Pretty ugly reach for me there, Noob.
Yeah.
Mason Graham at 8 to the Jets, Calvin Banks Jr. to the Bears at 9, and Will Johnson to the Saints at 10. I will be putting up the entire draft order on the screen on YouTube, so if you want to go and check that out, then please just look at your screen. If you're listening, then go and check out the YouTube as well. You can leave a comment, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow us on Spotify if you haven't already. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. That's been my co-host, Nick Corbs. We've been Unsportsmanlike Conduct. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.